I flip it? What do you mean? Oh. I don't want it in pano! I went photo. I'm trying to... Okay, I am recording. I couldn't tell. Anyway, what is up, everybody? We're on the 36. You guys haven't seen this bike yet, so I thought I'd take it out. I've actually been working on getting this thing built, so I haven't been riding it much. It's just kind of been sitting in the garage. But now it's in a state in which it can be ridden, so we're out on it. And I've gotten a lot of requests in the comments on both here and Instagram saying you guys want a video of how to build a stunt bike, how to get into stunt riding. So I figured pretty much everything that's done to this is done to the GROM, so I figured I'd hop on this and I'll kind of go over the parts that you'll need to put on your bike if you want it to be built for stunting. Anyway, so we're gonna go over here and pull over in this lot, and then I'll kind of do a walk around of the bike and show you guys what parts you need, what parts you can kind of hold off on until it's absolutely necessary, and then oh, I love this thing. It's so dirty. I need to go over some tutorial videos too, like how to clutchless shift, because I feel like that's a skill that not a lot of people have and not a lot of people know about. You don't need a quick shifter, boys. You can make your own quick shifter. You don't need to use the clutch. Look. You don't need the clutch. Anyway, I need to start making like tutorial videos like that. I feel like it'd be helpful. Just little skills that you learn over the years of riding. But anyway, let me get to the lot, and then I'll do a walk around of the bike and show you guys what you need. Alright boys, we're at the lot. There's a lot of construction going on right now, so I'm going to try to make this quick. But say you got your first bike, or hopefully not your first bike, but the first bike you're going to use to get into stunt riding, you're going to need a few things before you start stunting the bike, or you know, going out there and popping wheelies. I'd probably say the most important thing you need, and this is going to be more specific to the GROMs, the most important thing you need on the GROMs, I think it's the same for like the other small bikes like the Z120. Actually, I don't think you need it for the Z125. I don't think the Z125 has oil starvation issues. I could be wrong on that. You might have to check me on that. But I know like the CRF 110s and a couple other small bikes are going to have this issue. And there's a couple big bikes that have this issue too, that you'll need to, you know, you'll have to get an oil pan mod or something like that. But the biggest thing you're going to need for the GROM specifically is an oil pump mod. And basically what the oil pump mod does is it changes your oil pickup from the front of the case to the rear of the case. That way when you're up at 12 o'clock, you don't get oil starvation issues and blow up your motor. And that's going to be really, really important, because that's the last thing you want to do is blow up your bike while you're doing a wheelie. It sucks, it ends your fun quickly, and you might crash and hurt yourself. So if you do get a GROM, I'd recommend the first thing doing is getting that oil pump mod, okay? Super important. The second thing that I would really recommend doing, and this kind of goes along with the oil pump mod, is while you have that case off, putting the oil pump mod in, go ahead and get yourself 60% stiffer clutch springs, and then the reinforced clutch plate. Both of those together I think is going to cost you around like 40-50 bucks. So worth it. It's going to make clutching up the bike so much easier, because if you're familiar with the GROMs, they have really, really weak clutch springs and really, really weak clutch plates. So the clutch is just, I don't know, it's really sluggish and it doesn't feel good, and it's really hard to clutch those up. So if you do get a GROM, those are the two things that I guess three things that I really recommend you do first. Oil pump mod, 60% stiffer clutch springs, and then the clutch plate, because you're going to have to do a clutch plate if you do stiffer clutch springs, or you can destroy the plate. So get those three things. All three of them are going to cost you probably around, I think the oil pump mod's $80. So you're looking at like 120 bucks, 130 bucks, but it's really, really worth it, so that you can get the bike up a lot easier and you don't have to worry about blowing up your bike. So go ahead and do that. The other thing you're going to want to do, also really, really important on the GROMs, is you don't want to destroy your bike. So go ahead and get you a 12 bar or a sub cage and 12 bar. It's for the GROMs, it's all one piece. On the bigger bikes, especially the sport bikes, it's usually going to be a sub cage, and then your 12 bar will bolt to your subframe, so it's a little different. But I'll show you guys on the GROM as well, so you can see what everything looks like. But you're going to want a 12 bar on the GROM. That's really all you need as far as crash cages go on the GROMs. GROMs, it's just the way they are. You can crash them with just a 12 bar, and it doesn't hit the ground. Like, none of your fairings are going to hit the ground or anything. The 12 bar will pretty much protect it the entire time. The only other thing you could probably do on the GROMs, if you really wanted to, is you could get axle sliders for the front and the rear, but it's really not that necessary. Moving on, the next thing you're going to want, this is also kind of specific for GROMs, is if you have a 3rd gen or a 4th gen, the seat is really slippery and it's really flat. It's just a bench seat. It really, really sucks. So the budget way to fix that would be getting a Thrill Seeker's seat cover. Highly recommend that. It's a sticky material. It's gonna make a world of difference. You're not gonna be slipping off the seat. You're gonna be able to hold on better. You're gonna be able to control your wheelies better. So if you don't, go ahead and get a stunt seat for it from somewhere like Top Stitch or another company. Just go ahead and get a Thrill Seeker's cover. I think it's like 80 to 100 bucks. And you can throw that thing on there, and it's going to make a world of difference. So the next thing you're going to need on the GROMs, and pretty much any bike, but the GROMs really need it too, is get yourself some aftermarket bars. For the GROMs, I highly recommend the KLX 110 bend Pro Taper bars. They're a lot wider, you have more control, they sit a little higher, and they're pretty cheap. I think they're like $75, something like that. So go ahead and get you a pair of those. Gonna make a world of difference. Get you some Odie Ruffian race grips. These are probably the most comfortable grips you can get, in my opinion. So get you a pair of those. I had to take a second to breathe, open my visor. The next thing you want to do is get a 1-finger clutch lever. Alright, this is from Righteous Metal Stunts. 1 Finger sells them as well. Impact Tech, a couple other companies. Go ahead and get you one of these. It's going to make, clutch play and clutching up the bike a lot easier. You're going to have more control instead of using, 2-3 fingers to work the clutch. You can just have one. That's going to make a big difference. So go ahead and get you one of those. It's going to be a lot more comfortable. Okay, so if you don't know already, if you haven't watched my previous videos, you know that the most important thing to wheelies is your brakes. Alright, more specifically your rear brake. So what I highly recommend doing in pretty much every single sport bike and then every other bike is running a higher boiling point brake fluid. So I highly recommend running RBF 600, RBF 660, you can use RBF 700, use something like that, because when you're using the brake a lot, you're going to get brake fade. The brake's going to get really hot and it's not going to work as well. So use a higher boiling point brake fluid, please. It's going to really, really help. Another thing that really helps that I highly recommend you doing, this goes for every bike as well, is get steel brake lines, okay? Steel brake lines are also going to assist with your brake not getting as hot, and it's going to be a lot more responsive. So go ahead and get you some of those. It's going to make a difference. They can be kind of expensive, especially on bigger bikes, but it is well worth it, trust me. You'll notice too, I have them on the front and rear. If you go ahead and do them for the rear, I would just go ahead and do it for the front. It's going to help if you start learning stoppies and stuff like that. The brake just feels more responsive. So the steel brake lines are definitely a must, and obviously with those, make sure you're pairing that with some good pads, like some EBC pads or something that's going to grip and really be responsive for you. Last thing you want is a brake that's inconsistent. So something that's going to be really important for the GROMs, not so important for the bigger bikes, but I would still highly recommend you do it, is get you a pair of reinforced rear sets. For the GROMs, you can get them from Angry Stunts, you can get them from MKS, there's a couple other brands, but for the bigger bikes, you can go with NDC. Obviously, there's a couple other brands. NDC is awesome, though. I highly recommend these, especially if you have a 636.
They feel really good, and I've had absolutely no issues with them. I know a lot of people run these and they crash on them all the time and they just do not break. So reinforced rear sets, get you a pair of those. Like I said, on the GROMs, super important. The first thing that break on the GROMs when you crash are the OEM rear sets. So get a pair of reinforced rear sets. Let's see, what am I missing here? So obviously it's not done yet on this bike, but this is something that you're gonna want to do. I had it done on my other big bike, is get stunt seats, okay? So on the 636s, especially the 0304, they come stock with this super slippery material. It sucks to sit on, because you're always slipping up and down, especially in a wheelie, sorry. So send your seats off to Top Stitch. It used to be you could send them off to Bella. I don't think they really do business anymore, or another company that does stunt seats. But send them off, have your stunt seats done. You can get a rear seat as well. Rear seats really help too, because it'll be lifted and come forward a little bit, so it'll really help you lock in during a wheelie. And then obviously it'll have a foothold here, so you can do, other tricks like stand-ups and all that, and knee knockers and everything else. So get your stunt seats, because makes a huge difference. I still need to send these off. I've just kind of been procrastinating because I don't want to send them off and wait for them to come back. Usually the turnaround's not bad. It's usually a couple weeks, 3 weeks, but I like to ride this thing, so I'm just procrastinating on that. Another thing with the big bikes is you have to send your tank off to get done as a stunt tank, okay? I also have been procrastinating and I haven't done it. Kind of a big reason I don't want to do it is this tank is so beautiful and in such good condition. And if you're familiar with the 0304s, it's really hard to find these, so I'm kind of wanting to just find another one and buy it. But you can send your tank off. I'll actually tag the guy who is most known for doing this in the stunt community. He does really, really good work. So you have a big bike and you want to build it as a stunt bike, send your tank to him. His turnaround's really quick and he does a fantastic job. A lot of people will just dent the tanks. I don't like that. To me, I feel like it just messes with, the durability of the tank, and it doesn't look as good in my opinion. It doesn't look as clean. So I would send it off and just have it professionally done. That's just my opinion. I know some guys run dented tanks. I don't really like it. So you can do that if you want to, but I'd really recommend just sending it off and having it done professionally. It just looks so much cleaner and it's stronger. So do that. You don't need to do that on GROMs, obviously. Can't do stunt tanks on GROMs, but for the big bike, you're going to want to do that. Another big bike thing, and you don't have to do this, but on the 636s, you can do a triple tree to hold your brake reservoirs and everything like that. I still have a stock brake reservoir on this one, and I do not have a handbrake yet on this one. I have the handbrake stuff coming, so when all that comes, I'll go over that. But since it's not on the bike right now, and this is more so catered towards GROMs, I'm not going to worry about that. But once all that stuff does come in and I actually have this bike fully built, I'll do a more in-depth, tutorial on how to build a bigger stunt bike. But pretty much everything that's done to the GROM is done to this bike. Because on the GROM, there's no handbrake. And at this point, if you're just now building a stunt bike, I'd say you don't need a handbrake. That's going to be one of the things that you do not necessarily need. Probably your first 6 months to a year learning to stunt, you're probably not going to use a handbrake. And if you do start getting into a handbrake that early, you're pretty freaking good. But you should really focus on trying to become the best you possibly can with foot brake, in my opinion. So I really wouldn't worry about a handbrake right now because it's not really needed. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think that's all you really need, aside from this is also something you don't necessarily need, but it can help on the GROMs. You can go up in gearing a little bit. I recommend personally, if you're just going to be riding around the street and doing wheelies and going to the lot occasionally, it's not like a designated lot bike, I would recommend just going 1 down, 2 up in the rear on the GROMs. So 1 down up front, 2 up in the rear. It kind of gives it a little more torque. It helps you get the bike up, but you don't miss out on too much top speed. So that's a good thing to do if you get a GROM, but you really don't need to. Like, you can, pretty much everyone runs stock gearing, but there are some guys who do 1 down, 2 up, or there's some guys who do even crazier gearing that are just, have lot bikes. But I think that's pretty much it. I think that's about all to go over. Once again, I'll put up pictures of the GROM parts as I go along, because like I said, this is really catered more towards the small bikes and GROM specifically. I just haven't brought the 636 out, and you guys haven't seen it, so I thought I'd use this as an example. I think it's kind of fitting since everything is done with the GROM is pretty much done to the big bikes, so it goes hand in hand. I think that's about it.